Blog Talk Radio.
Aloha, everybody. This is Jennifer O'Neill, and welcome to Spirit Talk Radio. I skipped a show last Tuesday. Sorry about that, guys, but my schedule is getting full. I'm trying to do as many shows as I can and be consistent. But anyways, I'm back. So today's show we are going to do on I wanted to do on sensitivity and what's happening in the world right now and what's happening with different people. So I named the show Are You Sensitive because of some of the stuff that's going on. And so you may notice that lately, and by lately I mean could be the last couple of weeks, could be truthfully the last 2 years is where it could land, but somewhere between now in the last couple of years, are you noticing that you seem to be more sensitive emotionally, or are you noticing that you seem to be more sensitive on like just an energetic scale? Because that's what's happening to a lot of people in the world, and it leaves them wondering what's going on. So, for instance, this last week, well, let's see, how do I get into this? Well, this is some stuff that I've talked about before, and so I'm going to have to set the basis for you a little bit, but what I'm specifically talking about is like the last week, there's been all these energy waves that have come in that have caused people to be on just emotional roller coasters. And so in order to understand what's happening even just in the past week, I have to go back a little bit further and explain to you what's been happening in the past couple of years. So if you've heard this before, bear with me. If you're new, you may find this interesting. So what's been happening in the past couple of years is we've switched over from a physically based era to a spiritually based era. And so what does that mean? Well, everything before probably actually it happened a little bit before 2012, but everything in the 90s and the 80s and, before that, what was happening was energetically around the earth, around the people energetically, we were in what's called a physical-based era. And that was where we were in survival mode for a very long time before that, probably 1500s, 1100s, all that kind of thing. We were in survival mode, and then what happened is as the years went on, we didn't have to learn to survive anymore, but we were still in a physical-based era. So we went from surviving physically, finding our food, finding our shelter, all that sort of stuff, to where that got a little bit easier. You didn't have to work so hard at finding all those physical-based stuff. So then we started accumulating things in this physical era. It was, people were accumulating things. They were accumulating houses. They were accumulating cars. They were accumulating money. They were just like in accumulation mode. And so as the earth, or as all the energetic changes, as the dimensional shifts started happening, and this has all been written about for thousands and thousands of years, about this era that would eventually switch over into what's called a spiritual-based era. As we came out of survival mode and got very used to that and comfortable with that, things began to shift. And it's not just people, it's not just the air, but like the actual earth is shifting. The stars are shifting. The universe is shifting around us. So everything energetic, everything in the existence is beginning to make this shift into a spiritual-based dimension, a spiritual-based era. And so a lot of people started wondering what's going to happen, because there's a lot of weird things going around about how if you didn't, ascend higher, then you were going to be left behind. And I think that they thought like the earth was going to burst into flames or something, and all the people would be left here and everybody else would go to heaven. I don't know. It was very strange how people were talking about it. But that's not what was actually happening. What's been happening, and what happens when we are moving or have moved from the physical-based era to the spiritual-based era, is the physical things start to go away. They start not making much sense, and people will start having trouble with physical things. So they will start having trouble with things that aren't connected to their spiritual self and nature. So, for instance, if you had a job that you loved and was to the core of your being, to the core of your soul, something that you truly were passionate about, you were here and meant to put on this earth to do that, you're probably not going to be affected too much as far as money or your comfort level goes. But if you were working or are working at a job that you don't like and you're kind of working there, like a lot of people were in the construction or real estate industry and such, and they were starting to see an abundance of stuff, and it's kind of like everything came to a head before you started falling off the other side of the cliff. So basically everything came to a head before the switch happened. So if you were in any industry that you were in there just working to accumulate things or vacation time or whatever, and you didn't have a real connection with what you were doing, with why you were here, with what you were doing on a daily basis as far as putting your time in, a lot of times those jobs were cut. You will lose them. Somehow a lot of people are experiencing loss where they've lost these jobs, where they've been demoted, the company's been shut down. They feel like they're in survival mode. They may have made, 6 figures before or, even 5 figures very comfortably, and a lot of that became a loss to them. Somehow they were removed out of those positions. Somehow they were with lack of having income, because if they didn't have a spiritual connection with that, that's how this is going to work now. Things are going to drift out of your life that you don't have a spiritual connection with. And that's going to include relationships, guys. It's not just going to include money and all that. It's going to include pretty much everything. So that's also going to include relationships with your spouse or friends or family, people who you actually don't have a connection with. Somehow those things are going to dissolve and just disappear, or they're going to have some type of, you may have a fight or something, and it's just going to you're going to be rid of that relationship somehow. So that's what's been happening. So now we've been in the beginning stages of this spiritual-based era and this spiritual dimensional shift. And so now people are going to have to relearn how to literally just be. They're going to have to relearn how to be and how to thrive and how to move forward. And so one of the new things that's happening is everybody is starting to notice that they're way more sensitive. And by sensitive, I don't mean necessarily that they're just crying at the drop of a hat, or crying at a movie, but they're more sensitive to energies around them. They are more sensitive to the people who are around them. They're more sensitive to foods that they put in their body. That's a huge one. That is huge. That's going to be coming up really strongly in the next couple of years. People are really going to start reacting to foods. There's going to be way more allergies than you've ever seen before. A lot more just physical reactions to things that you're putting in your body, whether it be weight, whether it be health. That's another thing that you're really going to have to pay more attention to. And a lot of people think that the food thing is because of all the chemicals and preservatives that they put in, and that is true. There's a lot of stuff in there that we no longer need to eat. I didn't expect to go this right on this conversation, but I feel like this is important. So, again, what happened in the survival mode era or a long time ago, they weren't preserving our food to the extent that they are now. So, people are going out, 1100, 1500s, you're going out, you're catching your food, right? You're not preserving it. You're growing your food. You're not needing to save it for long periods of time. And so as, again, we got into I actually call it a hoarder phase. It sounds really weird, but everyone became in a hoarder phase with material things and foods and it wasn't just people, it was industry. On an industry scale, everybody became in this hoarder phase before we switched over. And so the corporations and everybody wanted to produce more stuff, more food, more everything, because we were just in this abundance thing that we thought we could do all of this, and things started becoming wasteful. But when everybody started preserving food, they had to think of ways in order to produce in abundance, like everybody wanted to. they had to be able to preserve it on the shelf and whatnot. Well, they've put more and more chemicals in different things in our food over the years, and it's never been at such a high. Never has the food, chemical stuff been so high. And they say that they're monitoring it, but nobody's really monitoring it. I mean, everybody's okaying all these chemicals, so it doesn't really matter if they're okay or not. So the problem with that is where our bodies and energetically we were physically based before, our bodies were kind of tougher in a sense, that as we've switched over, we're becoming way more in tune with our spiritual body. So you have two bodies. You have your physical body and you have your spiritual body, okay? And you have to imagine it like this. They go together. They overlap. One's inside inside. Imagine it that way. Imagine one's inside the other. But actually your spiritual body actually outspends your physical body. But just for the sake of the show, imagine that they go together like that and they merge together. So before, a couple of years ago, you primarily felt your physical body. You primarily felt it for everything. So a lot of desires and different things that you would want would come from your physical self. And what's happening now is people are primarily shifting over to feeling their spiritual body. And so it doesn't matter if they're 4 years old. It doesn't matter if you're 40 or 84 years old. People are now beginning to not feel and not be as in tune with their physical body, which I don't think is a bad thing, by the way, so don't freak out. They're becoming way more in touch with their spiritual body, so they can feel it more. They can feel everything that affects their spiritual body more. They are way more in tune to what's happening on a spiritual body level. And so that's all what's happening with this sensitivity stuff that we've been talking about. So as we shift over, let's take the foods, for example, because we were talking about that. You're going to start noticing what really affects your spiritual body that you put in your physical body, whether it be and whatever you come into contact with your physical body, whether it be relationship, friends, whatever. You're going to be gauging everything on a spiritual body scale now. And this is very different. This is very different for everybody. So they're confused and they're kind of worried and freaking out, and they're not understanding what's happening, and they don't know how to move forward. And so that's kind of why I'm doing the show. So foods, when you take into your physical body, you're going to start being able to feel what it does to your spiritual body now, and which you've never been able to do before. If you're 40-some years old, this is probably going to be a new experience for you. That you never noticed in your 20s, never noticed in your teens. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 30, you never noticed in your 20s, etc. So this is going to be new for everybody. And so, again, you're going to start seeing more allergies than you've ever seen. You're going to start seeing more reactions to different food, whether it be weight, whether it be rashes, whether it be eczema, whether it be, no matter what it is, you're going to start seeing your physical body react. You're going to feel differently. So let's address the food thing, number one. It's more important than ever before, and I swear this is so fascinating to me because I never ever thought I would see this on a psychic level or an energetic level, but I am, and I'm seeing it in a grand scale, like in a major way. So you be more careful about what you put into your body. I know that there's a lot of things about GMOs, non-GMOs. Preservatives, non-preservatives, and all that kind of stuff. It gets very confusing. Gluten-free, non-gluten-free, there's all that. The whole, what makes it easier is eat less preservative foods, less boxed food, less processed foods. So, for instance, things that are fresh vegetables, fruits. If you're going to have dinners, chickens, meat, things such as that, try to not cook anything that's in a box because they're full of a bunch of junk that is going to not make you feel, it's going to make you feel worse than you did, like I said, 5 years ago. Anything naturally or not processed. If you can eat organic, that's the best thing. Not everybody can do that. So just as a rule of thumb, try to eat some things that aren't put through so many steps. Try to eat natural. The closest you can get to like dinner, do chicken, do broccoli, do fruits, do vegetables, do whatever, do sweet potatoes, whatever, those came out of the ground. Don't do chicken and boxed macaroni and cheese. That's what I'm talking about. And it's not that you don't eat that way at all anymore, because obviously if someone's going to go to McDonald's, someone's going to rent a Pizza Hut, and I even do that as well. But try to start shifting your thinking over, because it's real. You're going to start noticing it even more so coming up in the next 5 years. And probably a lot of stuff is going to start coming out about the preservatives and different ties to different physical issues. So just try to stop doing it now. Wean yourself off of it. Eat as most natural as you can. The second thing, as far as sensitivity stuff goes, people are probably saying that they've seen more empaths now than they've ever seen their entire careers, and that's actually true in some regard. Everybody is born an empath. They're born very sensitive. They just are taught how not to be that way as they grow up. So everyone who is taught not to be that way when they're younger, they're going to find that they all of a sudden have empathic skills. Everybody I run into has an empathic skill to some extent. They ignore it. So I also find it interesting, everybody who runs around saying, oh, I'm an empath, like they're kind of rare. That's not as rare as you think. It's actually very super common. The people who acknowledge it, however, that's rare. So that's number one. And as an empath, the other thing, or as a sensitive, or as you're just becoming more aware of your spiritual body, what the main thing was, getting back to this last couple weeks, is you're going to start feeling all these energy waves that circle the universe and that circle the earth and that move through our space all the time. You're starting to be becoming very aware of these currents. I call them a wave, and I actually do a wave report, which, FYI, if you follow my wave report, I'm a little behind on that, but I'll try to get it up today for June. So there's these waves of energy that come through all energetic space. So earth, the house, the everywhere, the cars, the people, everything. There's these waves, and they come and they go, and they imagine it kind of like the ocean of water. They come or they go in these currents, and with them, they bring different types of energy. And so the last week or so, might be a little bit longer, the last wave of energy, and this is why you're feeling it, is because everybody's so sensitive, brought a ton of emotional energy and a ton of emotional crap with it. So why does it matter what's happening? Well, basically a lot of people are going through or feeling very hormonal, even if you're a guy. That's the only way I can describe it. They're feeling very up and down emotionally, like they could cry at the drop of a hat. Then they're fine, then they're not fine. It's bringing with people a lot of old things that they revisit, maybe like memories that you had when you were a child, or just memories that you had about the last job that you just had that you're really ticked off about. It's bringing up a lot of emotional crap that you have to deal with. This wave of energy that's bringing in, it's really intense emotional wave of energy. And so because it's an intense emotional vibe, it's going to make you feel really deep emotions on all levels. So as this wave comes through and you're right smack in the middle of the wave, it's going to wash through your body, go right through your body, and then all of a sudden your emotional being, the emotional part of you, is going to be very sensitive. And so you're going to start being very aware of what you're dealing with emotionally right now. And maybe if you're not dealing with anything emotionally right now, it may pull up emotional things from your past. So that's what's happening and what's going on, is we have this huge emotional wave going on. It should end by the middle of next week, and then things will start calming down, and then you'll probably be very tired. Again, I'll put this all in my wave report. If you guys haven't heard my wave report, you want to go on HawaiiHealings.com, because that's where it will be. And so, like I said, I'll try to get that up today, so it should be up by tomorrow for sure. So that's what's happening, is you're going to be feeling that. I'm going to try to take a couple of calls and see if I can answer some questions, and then I will continue to get into what we've been talking about a little bit more. Let's see if we can take this first caller. Area code 951. Aloha. Hello? All right. I don't hear them on the phone, so I'll try one more. We have an area code 780. Aloha.
Aloha.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. Did you have a question?
Good, yeah. I am good right at this moment. But let me tell you, in the last month, not only have I been experiencing, I'm super exhausted. I mean, I will just crash on the couch in the middle of the day. But there's times when I'm walking around and it's like I am so dizzy and lightheaded that I'm like, okay, you can't go outside because I feel I'm going to be a danger to myself, that I'm going to hurt myself, or I can't drive a car, that I am so lightheaded. It's not even funny.
Right. That's actually, this is new experience for you, yeah?
You know what? I do feel stuff anyways, but the lightheadedness is very new.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up because I don't talk about that very often. That's what happens when your empathic skills start taking hold and they get really strong. And I know exactly what you mean because I've experienced it, and it's actually kind of scary because so I'm really glad that you brought that up because I know that there's probably a lot of empaths that are listening. And it's a very odd feeling. It's like you literally feel, like you said, you feel like you could just walk outside and potentially, or drive down the road and potentially pass out. And then you're just like, and then it causes you to have anxiety because you're like, this isn't normal. I'm feeling very lightheaded. I'm not sure this is okay. And then you get panicky, which makes it worse. And so. Yeah, isn't that fun? I don't miss that at all. So for you and for those others who are empaths out there, what's happening is you're actually making a shift, and I can see your shift. I can see your shifting levels is what it's called. And I need to do this. I'm going to be doing this mentorship program, so hopefully you'll continue to follow me because it will help you learn. And that's why I did this show today is I'm trying to help people realize that you guys have to all relearn kind of how to live, especially if you were, because you were sensitive beforehand. Like you have psychic tendencies of being sensitive from when you were littler. So you never lost all of those completely. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like it never got trained out of you completely is what I'm saying. So you always knew, you always paid attention to some subtle things with your intuition and whatnot, okay? And so as you go, so now that you say, of course, like, well, doesn't everybody? Yeah, that doesn't always happen. So, but you did, and but what's happening as we've made this shift is you're leveling up. So because you already were paying attention to your psychic tendencies, what happens to any of us who already were, we get bombarded or really sensitive, and we get this shock to our system almost because we already felt our spiritual body, and now we feel it like tenfold. And so with that becomes this overwhelming adjustment between your physical and your spiritual body, and that's what a lot of that is. When you move levels as far as an empath goes, there's adjustments between your spiritual body and your physical body that have to happen. And so one of the things is when you adjust, you can have like those tingly sensations. You can get really hot. You can feel like you're getting hot, prickly sensations. Lightheadedness is one of them. So just FYI, I don't see any issues with you. Like, the weird thing, though, is when you do have empathic skills, it can mess with your blood pressure a little bit, making it lower a little bit sometimes like that. But I'm looking at your chart in particular to see how long it'll last. It seems like it'll probably last for about 6 months more.
Okay.
But
I'm just trying to make sure I'm grounded, that I'm walking on the planet,
Well, and when you feel lightheaded, realize you're in your spirit. You're feeling your spiritual body at that point in time, and so your spiritual body is has a very floaty feeling to it, and so your physical body is trying to make sense of it. So you're very tuned in. You're very tuned into your spiritual body when you're feeling lightheaded. Okay. And your physical body is trying to understand. Your brain is going, I'm not understanding where this feeling's coming from because it's not a physical body feeling, okay? So that's what's happening. So when you start getting lightheaded, just be aware that at that point in time you're very much aware of your spiritual body. And so then you can do things to just kind of pull you back in because you actually separate a little. People will separate a little bit with their physical body and their spiritual body. And so you need to pull yourself back into your physical body in order to make it stop quicker, or you need to just not panic and just enjoy whatever it is that you're doing at that time. So like if you're at the beach and you're feeling lightheaded, it's because you're really feeling and being in touch with the spiritual space around you, So some of the things that can cause that is I'm going to tell you some of the things that can cause it, and then I'm going to tell you some of the things to help it stop. So some of the things that can cause it are actually people or spaces, new spaces, or just reflecting in a really cool setting. So, like, if you're really enjoying yourself, like I said, and you're at the beach and you're like, or you're like at the park and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. It feels good. The temperature feels good. Smells good. You're really in touch with just the gratitude, that allows your spiritual body to be very aware. And so you might experience it then. Another time you might experience it would be when you're around a lot of people. The reason that you start feeling it then is because when you're an empath and when you're starting to be very in touch with your spiritual body, you feel energies around you all the time. And so you start becoming very aware of other people's energies. And a lot of times, people are more anxious than you realize. So when you go to Walmart, when you go to Safeway, everybody is in a rush and they're very anxious, and more people are not okay on the inside than they appear to be. Most people pass it off as they're okay, but most people on the inside are feeling very anxious, worried, and upset. And so when you start being aware of your spiritual body, you feel everybody else's spiritual body. So if you go out and you're in contact with people, naturally your spiritual body will start getting more sensitive to all these energies, and so you'll feel that lightheadedness again. Okay? And then any time that you're in a relaxed state or meditative state, it'll expand out. So what you can do is, like you said, you want to do the grounding techniques, but one thing that you can do, which is going to sound funny, and when I tell you this, you're going to laugh immediately, but you can actually jump on the ground or do jumping jacks or something that is causing some friction in your spiritual body.
Oh, that's funny, because actually, my chiropractor told me to do jumping jacks.
Yeah. And people laugh. I know, I want to be like, you do realize you're calling a psychic, right? So, my own family does this. This is so weird. You just told me that because, like, I called my cousin the other day, and I'm like, how's your daughter? She said she's fine. I said, no, has she been having nightmares? And she's like, oh, my God, she has been having nightmares. It is so weird you said that. And I'm like, really? Really? Is it really that weird I said that? Because, come on now. So anyways.
But it never gets old.
That's true. But so anyways, jumping jacks or jumping. If you don't want to do the actual jumping jacks with your arms, just jump up and down. It sounds so weird, but I'm not kidding. Any body friction. So like if you were, for instance, if you were to play tennis, you're obviously, as you're moving back and forth, you're hitting the ground with your feet, right? So if you were to go to a batting cage with your kid, if you were just to, something that causes your body friction will help you ground that. Like it's so fast. That is the quickest way you can eliminate that. So what I suggest for all empaths or all sensitives out there that are experiencing what you are is to make sure that instead of going, oh, my God, I'm feeling lightheaded and I need to now go play tennis or go play golf or do jumping jacks, be preventative. Don't wait till you're feeling that way. Start implementing it into your routine. So, for instance, where you could have not been physical before, it doesn't work so well when your physical body and your spiritual body are trying to learn how to work together on the opposite end. Before, physical body was primary, now spiritual body is being primary. So they're still learning all the things as they're working together. And so, sorry, it doesn't have to be something I choose, but there's got to be. You could do bowling, you could do, P90X, you can do golf, you could do tennis, anything that keeps you causes some type of friction with your physical body. So start just adding that into your routine. If you start adding that into your routine, you're going to notice a huge, huge difference. And then I know I mentioned the food thing, but I'm shocked at my own personal experience with, because my psychic abilities are ridiculously high anyways, and they've so shot through the roof, it's unreal. But I'm really noticing my own issues with caffeine, just processed foods. I just have to stay away from them, and it's a bummer because I was always one of those people who could eat whatever I want. I was the psychic who could drink a soda and do a psychic reading for you when everybody was like, oh, why are you drinking soda? Aren't you supposed to be pure with water, et cetera, et cetera? Yes, I do water, but I could always do it under any circumstances. I still can, but I'm noticing I just don't feel as good. I'm noticing the effect on my spiritual body is very different right now. So, again, be careful of any caffeine intakes and things like that. Drink lots of water stuff. Diet is important, but that physical jumping jacks, the friction, you'll notice that that's going to help. And, of course, if you're out and you feel like you're going to pass out, just sit down and whatever. But, don't, try to push yourself through it and go, I'm going to do this. But realize that it's very common. And that it happened to me for years. So I probably went through that about 2 or 3 years. And I just got used to it and knew the tricks. And then also, the other thing that really will pull you right back in, I forgot about this, and I almost forgot about it. It's one of my favorite tricks. Very cold water right on your back of your neck. It is your 5th chakra.
Oh, okay.
And your 5th chakra, back of your neck. If you're out anywhere, or even if you take a cold water bottle with you, if you're in your car and you can hold the cold water bottle to your back of your neck, or water, actual water, if you're out in the mall or something, go in the bathroom, run cold water under your hand, put that cold water on your hand on the back of your neck, and you will notice that you will immediately almost come back in. It'll ground you. Yeah, it's such a cool trick.
Okay, so that's great.
That's one of my favorites. That's actually even more my favorite than the jumping jacks because it would look weird if you were doing that in the mall. So, yeah. And it's, just as fast. So do the water thing, watch your diet, but then try to make sure as preventative that you add the physical stuff in, okay?
You're right. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that somebody else has experienced it besides myself.
Yes, several people have. They probably just don't go around talking about it. I can because nobody cares. And it's very normal, and it's something that a lot of empaths experience. It's totally normal, and that's again why I want to do that mentorship class is because I've learned that a lot of people are experiencing all these things, and they have nobody to talk to. They don't know what it is. They get scared. They get worried. They don't know what to do, and they think it's their physical health. And, of course, anybody out there who's worried about the physical health, you definitely get checked out by a doctor first. But but these things, there's a lot of things that people feel from their spiritual body, and they don't know. So keep in touch and watch for that class because there'll be a lot of stuff in there I think that you can benefit from, okay? All right. Well,
thanks a lot, Jen.
Wonderful day. You're welcome.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high-fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Black Friday is coming, and for the adults in your life who love the coolest toys, well, there's something for them this year, too. Bartesian is the premier craft cocktail maker that automatically makes more than 60 seasonal and classic cocktails, each in under 30 seconds at the push of a button. And right now, Bartesian is having a huge site-wide sale. You can get $100 off any cocktail maker or cocktail maker bundle when you spend $400 or more. So, if the cocktail lover in your life has been good this year, or the right kind of bad, get them Bartesian. At the push of a button, make bar-quality cosmopolitans, martinis, Manhattans, and more. All in just 30 seconds. All for $100 off. Amazing toys aren't just for kids. Get $100 off a cocktail maker when you spend $400 through Cyber Monday. Visit Bartesian.com/cocktail. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail.